Welcome back to Heath's house, where we do a little bit of everything all the time, and it usually turns out right. Actually, not currently. I got to figure out where he went. Oh yeah, he is. He's over there behind the tree. You can see him a little bit right there. Action for bluegill, and then I'm going to try to turn this stuff into that. It looks like there's only like 2 steps, so this should be pretty easy. I'm over at Homesteading Off the Grid because he said he had a smoker put together, and I was like, well, that's a good opportunity to smoke some meat. So I brought some of those fresh bratwurst I made a while back, and as soon as this is together, we're gonna get lit up and we're gonna get it going. So follow me along as we put this smoker together. All right, Dearly made us some food, so we had to go eat. First steps first, you have 4 legs. We got to screw the wheels in. As you see, these are some nice wheels, man. These are a lot bigger than the wheels on my smoker, so this should move around the grass pretty easy. And he just caught a fish. All right, I'm gonna get these screwed in, then we'll move on to the next part. All right, we got all the wheels on. You do need a 17 millimeter wrench for this. Now we're gonna put the bottom board on these. It's gonna attach right here with a Phillips head screwdriver. So let's get this together, and then we'll check in on the next step. Had to pause for a second putting the wheels on though. Heath just came over and he caught a giant salamander. He was pretty excited about that. I'm out here putting this together so we can smoke some food, and he's out here living his best life fishing. So when you're putting these on, you have 2 sets of wheels. This wheel here is the locking wheel. As you can see, it's got this little locking mechanism. So you want to make sure you have the locking mechanism on one side. And so you notice there's 2, when you do it, there's 2 different types of legs. So you have the locking wheel on the opposite legs. And then when you install it, you'll be able to keep this thing from rolling around. All right, the next step is the frame to mount the set that on top of. It's going to go right in here with the smaller screws. So these will go here on each end, and then you have one of these that'll go here on each end right here, like this. And there's screw holes for it, so it'll mount right there, and then right here on each side. And let me get these screwed in, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so I was on step 3, which is put this frame on. Next steps are all putting all the little handles and stuff on that, but it's sitting on the ground right now and it's going to flop around. So I'm going to skip to step 7, and I'm going to mount it to here first so it's stable and not going to move around, and then we'll start putting all the handles on. But in the directions, you have those 2 casters I was telling you about earlier. The 2 casters go under the firebox. So we're going to set this up here. Alright, so now that attaches with 8 screws on the inside here. Alright, so I'm going to get this lined up. Slide it over. Where's the holes at? Oh, there they are. All right. So now, and then we'll put all the rest of these screws in. And I'll show you in a second how it's going in here. Once I get this in so it stops rolling around. And I'm not going to tighten this one up all the way, because I need to get all the rest of the screws in first. All right, so you see those little holes right there? Right here and here, there and there. They all line up, and then you got some holes right here that these are going to go into. So I'm going to get that started, and we'll check back in a second. All right, I've got the 6 smaller screws and the 4 bigger screws in here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to tighten them all up. These are slightly loose still. in order to make all the screw holes fit. So I'm going to tighten up all 4 of these corners and then all the screws in here, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to move back to step 4. And step 4 is putting this on, which this one says you need a pad, but what they mean is that little washer. Screwdriver. All right, step 5. So this is your drip pail. It just hangs on a little ledge right here, and then that'll catch all your drippings. All right, so next step is we got to put this handle on, and then there's a basket that sits on top of it. Let's get started by hand real quick so I can get all the holes lined up. All right. I can almost smell the smoke. I mean, we're almost there. I think I just got to put the chimney on next. That might be the last piece we got to screw in. I'm going to make sure these are nice and tight. It's on top. So yeah, this basket just sits here. You can use it to store your stuff on, and then it comes off when you're done to wash it. All right, let's look through the book. All right, we got the smoker. I mean the chimney. Same thing, I'm gonna get them started by hand real quick, so we can get all the holes lined up. Now that I got them all almost all the way tight, and I'm going to go through and tighten up the rest of it. All right, we have one last piece actually to go on. That's the front piece. So you got these 2 little brackets here. That's what we're going to use for that. All right, last piece we have to screw on is this piece. It goes right onto these brackets. There's a little, oh, you can't see it. Kind of get out right there. See how this little V right here? That's going to slide around on this screw with the little ledge. So that's going to get screwed on. So you just set this down in, and then screw from the inside. And that allows you to pick this up and hang it down so it gets out of the way when you're not needing it. When you need it, you just pick it up and set it up. All right, now we just got to put the inside in. All right, so the last steps for the inside, you got this big one, and there's a little slot right here. There's a little slot you'll see it hits up on, and it slides in there. And then this is your cover for the vents, so you can let more or less smoke out up the middle. You set that in there, and that goes in with this little locking mechanism on the outside. And then this is going to go through the hole you'll see down here, and we'll screw on the end piece. And then that attaches right into this little locking mechanism. All right, so that's how it goes in here. This is the slot I was talking about right here. And then this is the little locking mechanism. And now you can, if you want heat or smoke, you can open this and close it, and it'll regulate the temperature coming out here. Otherwise, it'll push most of the smoke down this end, which is what you want, and it'll come right out. All right, the next part is just putting the grates in. Everything came wrapped pretty good. There was a little bit of damage from the shipping. I don't think that was Vevor's fault, because this thing was packed in a ton of foam. but the box was pretty much destroyed, and yet this thing came through with only a couple little dings on it. We're not going to send it back because, well, it's nothing that's going to cause the smoker not to work. So we got those two great, and then we got the one at the top. All right, so there you go. You got the smoker all put together. I don't know, I'd say I had to stop to eat in the middle because Dearly made us some food that was totally delicious. But Kevin, about a half hour of putting it together? Yeah, it took about a half hour. Not too bad. And I'm gonna go get this thing going in just a second, and we're gonna get this seasoned and smoke some meat. Thanks for stopping into Heath's house, where the food is always fresh, the back deck is always open, and sometimes I'm with Crazy Lake enjoying the afternoon.
What's up?